What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Dispensary Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Kwan, the founder of the #1 digital marketing agency in the world for cannabis dispensaries. And I'm joined here by Britney, the general manager of a lot of different dispensaries. We have Brant Cannabis Co, Woodstock Cannabis, Burlington Cannabis, Cloud9 Cannabis, Cloud9 London, with many, many more coming. And I'm also here with Jordan from Flower Power Consulting. And welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
Awesome. So let's hop right into it. So if you want to tell me a bit about yourself, don't fight about whoever wants to go first. And let's start with that.
Jordan, you can start off.
Okay. I'm Jordan of Flower Power Consulting. I'm based out of BC, but primarily work with retailers in Ontario and do some work with LPs here in BC. I started Flower Power in 2020. And I'm glad to be here, Brandon. Thanks for having us.
No worries.
So I'm Britney Guerra, dispensary manager, not owner. And
apologies.
It's okay. No worries. It happens.
Fit that in there.
I have 11 years, almost 12 years in the cannabis industry. Started my work in Vancouver, BC with cannabis culture. Have opened a series of unregulated dispensaries that contributed to legalization. And I was opening a bunch of stores and I was overwhelmed and needed help. And Miss Jordan over here came up with the brilliant idea of Flower Power Consulting and aided my family in opening all of their stores and basically secretly does my role of the general manager. From the digital aspect, nobody knows my secret. Don't tell anyone. But she has been responsible for all the SOPs of the stores, basically helped me build all management aspects of it, all of the LP relations she does. She's one of, other than me being the general manager, she's one of the most important employees on our team. So a crazy, wonderful ride it's been, and Jordan has literally held my hand and walked me through the entire way. So it's been fun.
Wow, look at that intro. And I like the small smirk. When you're getting a compliment, you can't really say anything, but you have the smirk on the side of your mouth and you're like, yeah, that's me,
Yeah.
So that's now. So I've heard a few things about how you guys got started, and I'm super excited to, listen to your story. So let's bring it all the way back to when the industry was not legal. So tell me about how you guys got started together and how that journey kind of formed into now.
So Jordan and I are both from Ontario and moved out to Vancouver at similar times. We were kind of friends, more of a weird frenemy thing where we knew each other, and I think we both just have such vibrant personalities that we were kind of afraid to come together and form this superpower. But we were with guys that dated, and we just became friends organically over that after time. I was a waitress, she was a waitress, and I've always been a huge cannabis fan. I've smoked more than I'll admit on camera. One day I was walking down the street and Mark and Jody Emery were speaking. He was just about to be extradited to the US for selling seeds, and he was having a farewell tour at a square in Vancouver. And I just smelled marijuana, and I was like, I want to be there. So I went over there. And I smoked some weed and met them, and they told me about cannabis culture and where it is. So then I just started going there every day, and I basically harassed them. And then one day they're like, we want you to be our advertising manager because you sold us. I was like, wow. And that's kind of how I fell into the cannabis industry. It was on my 21st birthday, the day I started my job officially. So I'm 34 now. So it's been a really long time, and it's strange to be called a veteran. And Jordan, I guess Jordan's been there with me. We had a awesome show called Paparazzi, so it was celebrity cannabis gossip, and we had a game show called Guess That Strain, and she's always had her hands in the pot with me, figuratively. Not as much of a smoker, unfortunately, because I always would love that. but yeah, we had early history. We opened a dispensary in Burnaby together. She was, again, my left-hand lady because I'm nothing without her. And unfortunately, that resulted in some charges because we were in Burnaby and not in Vancouver. And the RCMP are much stricter than the VPD because they just have so many problems to deal with other than cannabis. So we lasted about 3 months. We had some times where we couldn't really speak with each other and stuff. So we like kind of had to respect our conditions. And then I moved back to Ontario. And Jordan lived her life out there and did some traveling, and I was here like raising a family. And then in 2015 decided to open a vapor lounge in Hamilton and kind of like dip my toe in the water because there weren't any dispensaries here. I didn't know what the repercussions would be. And yeah, since then, like Jordan and I have been talking and having, you know, the best work relationships. And then legalization came. So I got in a lot of trouble in that window of time, and like that, I think that could be left to a whole other show, just the drama and the theatrics of that. So I'll just leave. Anyways, opened dispensaries in Ontario, got charged with conspiracy, like got my passport seized, had some crazy problems, and was kind of forced out of the industry. And then Dougie Ford came in and said that we're going to open the retail market to the public. So I talked to like my brother-in-law and my family, and I just said, like, I think that this is a very good opportunity for you guys. Like, obviously I'm very knowledgeable in the industry. We can help and contribute and stuff. And so, you know, the idea of Brant Cannabis was born, and my brother-in-law like went through it all and left his career of 23 years to come and like be the operator of these stores. And here we are. And Jordan, again, has helped me do everything. Helps all of us. I think she works with like my brother-in-law more than she works with me almost.
Well, it sounds like you're really good at convincing people to do things all the way back from the start. You know, it sounds like you're really, really good at that. So I do have a bunch of questions on that. But Jordan, does that fit on your side of the story? Because there's always two sides of the stories. Does that align kind of what your perspective was?
Yeah, definitely. I think I fell into the industry by proxy, Brittany. And yeah, starting with the dispensary here in Burnaby, and you know, the end result of that scared me off of the industry until legalization. And then when Brittany brought me on board with Brant, it's when I first saw how little support was available for owners. Like, you're really going in to this industry, like even with all the like legacy work, like there's a lot of new regulations and that you're trying to work around. And there was not a ton of education available to owners. And you're just kind of figuring it out as you go, which allowed me to start Flower Power, because surely a lot of people felt that way starting their stores. So yeah, that was how we started. And who knows where we'll go.
Hey, look, there's a lot of different pathways, and you know, it's never really what you actually think it is, or even if you plan it, there's, you know, kind of goes like this, right? I want to take it back to the Burnaby stuff. So, you know, you started up the dispensary in Burnaby. How long did that last? You know, what got you in trouble? Did somebody snitch on you? How did that kind of all unravel, you know, in terms of the drama?
I think we were a bit too loud. We got on the news a couple times. There wasn't much fear at that time, which was a mistake.
What year was this?
This was 10 years ago.
10 years, so
2011.
2012.
11 years. Okay. And then we were being investigated by the RCMP. I remember getting their file, and they had been following us like all individually, like around our homes, like
like a PI, like a private investigator.
Like Jordan walked to the store, from the store to her car, drove home, like, and I was like, oh my God, it was quite alarming actually that someone had been following me for so long and I didn't notice. And yeah, so I think it was 3 months.
3 months.
And
it was April 15th to July 9th.
Oh, you have the dates too. Wow.
I'm an encyclopedia of dates.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Now we can piece the story together, you know, better for the audience. And what like made you guys want to start it together?
Brittany needed a manager.
So you're placing the blame on Britney then. You're like, hey, this is all Britney's fault.
It was 100% me. It's hard because it's not hard. The reason why I did it is because I spent my cannabis career around trailblazers like the Dana Larsons, Mark Emery and his seeds. And it was just like, there were two types of people that worked at Cannabis Culture. The people that worked at Cannabis Culture that were happy with their jobs. They went to work every day. They contributed. They did a great job. But when they went home, their job turned off. And then there's the type of people more like me and Dana and people that our minds don't turn off when we get home. Like we're like, okay, how can we make this better? What can we do to make this better? I want to do this for the rest of my life. How can we make this happen?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I've always kind of like, call it a criminal mind or whatever. I've always kind of had a mind of like, we need to do it. We need to just push. We need to see what happens. My parents, I was like, I can't imagine. And I'm a mom now, so I couldn't imagine my daughter coming home. Obviously, if it was something like psilocybin or something plant-based medicine, I'd be like, cool, sweetheart, you go for it, But like, my parents are older. So for them, when I told them I was going to start opening these dispensaries, they're like, Brittany, like, are you stupid? And I'm like, well, like, no, but yes, but no,
all day in 2012, no less.
Right. And I'm like, okay, maybe I am, but we'll see what happens. Right. But I'm just surrounded by these just powerhouses of activists that are just pushing the barriers. And like, when I got my job at Cannabis Culture, it had already been there for 15, 20 years. So it's like, I was already a part of something so old and something so crazy that I knew that there was more to it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So Jordan, was it more so Britney that convinced you to do it, or were you also kind of passionate about this particular space? Maybe not the consumption part of it, but just more so just being in the industry itself.
So Britney was definitely the segue, but growing up, my father was a cannabis user. I remember finding out I was probably 10 years old, and I was like, my dad's a drug addict. I was devastated to find that he was a cannabis user. And as I grew older, I was like, okay, I get it now. Mm-hmm. And so my father was really, an activist for the plant. Mm-hmm. Like that was his medicine 100%. And it was until the end of his life. Like I remember after I'd left the industry, my father got cancer, and Britney, connected me with someone locally here in BC, because my father was in Ontario, to access, because I think it was easier to access at that time, certain types of cannabis derived products, snake oil, which was a super powerful like oil that my father used for the whole duration of his cancer treatment. And he didn't need any type of pain management pharmaceutically until the last week of his life. So I'm definitely a believer in what this plant can do, the benefits of this plant. Britney definitely got me involved in working in the industry, but my father, was also, there cheering me along in the beginning. Like he was supportive of those days. He was an old hippie.
He was. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was all down for that. So then how, obviously the Burnaby stuff didn't end up towards the way you guys wanted it, right? For better or for worse, you guys are in a fantastic position now, right? Who knows, if that experience made an impact on that. But why didn't you guys just be like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. This is a scary experience. And just completely I know, Jordan, you said you briefly left, but Britney, it seems like you were always kind of in and out.
So I did take a brief hiatus off when I moved home to Ontario I moved home in the end of 2012, closer to 2013. And there was no cannabis industry in Hamilton, like the area that I'm from. And, I kind of just sat back for a couple of years, and like leveled my life out here. I just moved home after 6 years. You know, it was like getting used to laying my roots down or whatever. And then one day I was just driving down Barton Street with my husband, and I saw like a for lease place, and I'm like, Brandon, like, I really want to open a vapor lounge. Like I just need to do something. I'm falling apart here.
Yeah.
Like at the time he was working at the Ford plant. So like he was gone, you know, two weeks on, 2 weeks off, days and nights and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like hanging out with my friends and bored out of my mind. And I was like, I should start with a vapor lounge. It's a good, like, dipping your toe in the water to see what bites, you know? And I just like shared on Instagram and shared on my Facebook and opened a little vapor lounge. And it was just like it's called Cloud9. There's a couple of stores that are named after it now. But it was just the cutest little vapor lounge ever. And it created this awesome little community. I had also like, it's a building, right? And there's a store on one side and a store on the other side, stairs upstairs that go upstairs to apartments. So like the ground floor, there's 2 units. And when I rented it, it was so cheap down there because it's like Barton isn't the best area in the city.
Sure.
The landlord's like, okay, they're $900 each, or you can have them both for $1,500. And I'm like, wow.
Oh,
I'm like,
reasonable.
that sounds interesting. So I was like, okay, I'll take both of them.
Yes.
So the other side just sat empty I opened Cloud on December 1st. And it sat empty until March when I decided to partner with Weeds, Glass, and Gifts out of Vancouver, which is a dispensary. So I decided to partner with them because there was less financial risk if you like go under an umbrella, like, and they had multiple stores in Vancouver, a pretty successful company. Decided to partner with them, and it was great. We had a like big bright neon pot leaf sign in the window. It would light up all of Barton Street, no problem. The trick of the trade is to choose a neighborhood that's not, you know, cotton candy and sunshine. Because exactly, and there's way more problems to be dealt with and stuff. So you have to pick a neighborhood that's a little rougher around the edges, right? So we did great, and then around summertime, Weeds was really booming. Dispensaries in Toronto started opening. They had like 7 stores in Toronto, and they would just like text me and be like, I'm sorry, Hamilton isn't our priority. We can't send you product. And I'm just like sitting here and I'm like, oh my God, like my connections are out of this world. I've been in the weed industry forever. I could get whatever, whenever, however. So I just like, we had contracts and everything worked out. So I just said, like, I think that it's best if we part ways because like I can do this myself better. And like, I obviously understand the way that brokering works. You're making money on both ends of it, exactly. Right?
Yeah.
Like I get the incentive from their part.
Yeah.
So then the medicine cabinet was born, and that was like, it was the first store in Hamilton, and it just switched names. And that little setup that I had with the medicine cabinet and the vapor lounge on the other side was so cool. It was just the best.
So does that not, so the medicine cabinet dispensary side, the vapor lounge. So does that not exist anymore?
No.
Okay.
It's all gone.
Oh, well, you know, again, fun experience, I'm sure. So Jordan, did you help out with any of that stuff or no?
No, I didn't. Those were my years out of the industry.
Your years away.
Yeah, I was watching Britney from afar.
I was just too much of a rebel sometimes, you know, and it's like after the medicine cabinet had a few successful months, and then I repartnered with Cannabis Culture before I was an employee. This time I'm like, all right, like the medicine cabinet's doing amazing. Yeah. It started with 1 dispensary, then there was 15. So when there was 15, I was like, you know what, let's go wreck. So I found a crazy building downtown Hamilton, right beside a huge parking lot, because any dispensary owner in the legal or legacy market knows parking is their number one most important thing. And we went fully rec and just destroyed the market. Like we had,
I'm sure.
When I opened Cannabis Culture, there was 15, and on the highest peak, there were 94 stores in Hamilton. And it started with the medicine cabinet. So, and that was just legacy market stores. That's not legal stores.
Yeah. So you truly are a pioneer in the space then.
I don't like to call myself that, but I will say, okay.
I think both experience wise, consumption wise, and business wise, you're absolutely crushing it right now. If no one else has told you that, I want to let you know.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So when, things became, I guess, or I guess before things became legalized and sourcing products and all those things, how did you go about sourcing products? How did the whole back end logistics operation work? If you're kind of like trying to fly under the radar and doing all these different things.
So the best part about being guilty is I have full admission of everything, which is going to make a great book, right? Because I can actually be like, yeah, I did this and this and this and this, and they already know that, and that's okay. We're here. Okay. So any cannabis, any dispensaries, anything like that, all initially started with the medical market. Okay. So Health Canada was licensing people for, 150, 200 plants that people didn't need. Obviously, there was huge overflow from growers that just from having my job and my resources at Cannabis Culture, like I had to push people away from me just because once I opened the dispensary in Burnaby, that's when the connections really started coming. And they would come with suitcases to the store and be like, hey, here's my weed. Yeah. Do you want it? So it was like the doors kind of opened themselves. And Canada Post does a great job at mailing marijuana, and whether they know it or not. So,
I mean, look, they are complicit in, but ignorant at the same time. So, they'll mail your stuff. They just don't have to look into it, and they'll just say, hey, I'm mailing everything going on.
The overnight shipping process is fantastic. Money back guaranteed.
I'm sure it is. So Jordan, we'll hop into kind of how you got back into this space. So this was 2020, you said? So 2020, what kind of brought you back in?
So Britney called me and she was just like, hey, I got these stores opening. I need some support. There was just a lot of unknown at that time, and I was I just moved back to the country, and I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do again. And I wanted to work for myself. And Britney invited me in to start working with the stores and supporting from the back end of things. So virtually, and that's kind of where things got going. And then started moving really fast. We had stores opening like back to back to back to back. And then I started gaining more clients. And so it was like so many openings in that first year. And it's just continued on since then. As I was working with Britney, I was able to really identify specific services that were helpful for Britney's stores and would be helpful for other stores. So it was through experience with her that I was really able to build on my business and figure out, the beauty of this space and the beauty of working in its infancy is that there's still so much to grow. We still don't know exactly what the ceiling is in this space. It's changed so much even in the last 2 years. So that's where things got started, and continue to sit. We're just, I know I am, and I'm sure Britney can speak to the same, and probably Brandon, you too, working in the space is like, we're learning something new every day. Yeah. And it just changes so quickly. And I think that's part of like where owners also need support is the compliance is changing quickly too. Yeah. The AGCO 2 weeks ago sent out an email, and if you didn't read the entire long email, you may have missed that you need your RSA displayed on your website and the Ontario seal displayed on the website. And that's your compliance. And if stores every store I sent out a notice to let them know, none of them actually knew, and all of them received the email.
Yeah. Nope. Nobody reads these really, really long paragraphs and stuff. I mean, I have a client out in Edmonton, and the same thing. They actually wanted like a big banner. I forgot exactly what the banner was, but it was like, like no children smoking sort of banner. They had to put that on. how to put the licenses of all the stores on. And then I think they even need an age gate on their menu ordering thing. So depending on where you are, like I'm sure you have clients everywhere, like Ontario's one beast, Edmonton's a different beast. And then if you go down to the States, clients in the States, each state is completely different. So, you know, whether you need to do it or not, you have to learn, right? Or else you're going to get wiped out, right? So when Britney made the call and was like, Jordan, I need your help, you know, open up these stores. I need all hands on deck. You know, we need to bring the team back together. What was like the first, like, what was the thing that Britney needed help with? And did you come in with prior experience with what she was asking, or did you learn on the spot?
So during my time, away from the industry, I worked in nightlife and hospitality. I was a general manager of a nightclub in Vancouver. I also moved out of the country. I was running like a large estate in the Bahamas, and we kind of operated that as a hotel. So I had a lot of previous management experience. I was also a sales rep for a beer company, which that experience actually has come in use a tenfold in this space, because it mirrors a lot of the alcohol industry.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Which I was familiar with. So I was able to bring those experiences into this space, into my business, into the work I do with Britney. And yeah, I think that when she called me, it was weird because there's no fear anymore.
Yeah.
You know, after getting arrested and charged, like I wasn't interested in doing that again.
Yeah. I'm sure.
You know, I was like, okay,
yes,
learned my lesson, and I was done. And now there's no fear involved.
Yeah.
In what we're doing. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm into it. It was a nice way to come back.
Yeah. And Britney, what did you ask Jordan? What was like her first, I don't want to say role, but what were you like, hey, I really need your help on this?
So my kid was, I think she was like a year and a half old at the time. So I was like balancing being a mom and all of this stuff happening. And the operator of the store, like Jared, my brother-in-law, he's incredible with the compliance and the filling out of forms. And like he handled all of that kind of stuff. I think that when it came to Jordan, it was any of my email communications, because it was just overwhelming. I was getting emails from so many LPs, from so many just unbelievable stuff. Like, are we going to use Dutchie? Are we going to use Buddy? Like, what? There's so many different platforms. Which is the best POS? Which isn't the best POS? Product knowledge, product information. It was just stuff that you don't see that goes into opening these stores, right? And her support for the operator has been unbelievable in this whole process. She started by answering emails and building LP relations and doing like rep work, and turned it into like she has full communication with everybody. She helps with payroll. She does everything. Like really, she turned helping me into a lifelong career. Just seeing the gaps and seeing the support I need as like a legacy industry person who knows, like my cannabis knowledge is extensive, but that didn't matter. It matters now on the ground in the store. That matters. But back end stuff back in the day, like I knew nothing. It was like learning an industry all over again. And I was just overwhelmed. And like, you know, Jeremy, the operator, was handling all the paperwork and stuff. And my husband was handling all the construction and stuff. And it's like, we all had our departments, but my department was just so overwhelming just because there was so much communication coming in. And like, I had a kid and it just worked so well. The support that I was given, I got support from Jordan I didn't even know I needed.
That's how you know you have a good person.
That's how you know that she saw a gap in a market that didn't exist.
Yeah.
And she built it into, now there's a market for it. Now there are other consultants out there. Now there are people trying to mirror what Flower Power has done and charge exponential fees, which is another area where Jordan excels, because for her, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. It's not quantity of money, it's quality of service. And with quality of service, that brings a quantity of people that want her to work for them. So very interesting stuff. Like I tell her at least sometimes, maybe not once a week, but at least twice a week, that like I'm so proud of her and like just of everything that she's done. And yeah, it's amazing.
No, it sounds like you guys are, like I said, the power team is together. You got the Avengers back together, and you're absolutely crushing it right now. So Jordan, did you form? So I'm assuming Brittany called you for help, and then you formed Flower Power, and then you formed your services around kind of what you help Brittany with. How did that kind of process work to build it from you're just kind of helping a friend to a full business that you are now, crushing it with?
Yeah, I mean, it really started. I would at the time I was still working a full-time job here, so it started. I was waking up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, working on my laptop on my couch, for Brittany, getting everything going with those stores, and then I was like, okay, this can be a business. Mm-hmm. And I was able to, form my services around what I was doing for her. Areas I was seeing that, even with Jeremy, with Brandon, like what areas of support have I offered them, and what do I believe would be useful for owners of other stores as well. So I was able to really define my services through the work that I did with them in that group, especially because they were growing at such a rapid rate.
Yeah.
We really had to get it right, or else it would get really messy on the back end of things and on the financials and all of that. So we really had to develop systems really quickly to make sure things stayed organized and that we stayed on the right track, and so that they could continue doing what they're the best at. Menu curation, mm-hmm. and managing the store and managing staff and that kind of thing. And I could just stay in the back and make sure everything was, continue to run smoothly. So that's where I continued to stay. And then, I could, like Brittany was saying, she was getting a lot of communication from different companies.
Sure.
And I think in the beginning, for a lot of owners, like that's happening. It's everyone is coming at you. You're a new store and people are coming at you like, you need us.
Yes.
And you need to pay for us.
Yes.
So for me to say like, no, you don't need to pay for that. You don't need to pay for that.
Yeah.
But do this and do that. And keep it fairly simple.
Yeah.
Because there's so many tech companies now that are, some are really useful and some you might not need, and they are expensive and you are paying a monthly fee. Operating costs of a cannabis store are high.
Yeah.
It's a challenging business to be in. I think a lot of owners come in and they're, they want to sell drugs. They're like, yeah, I'm going to make so much money. Yeah. It's a lot to manage. It's a lot financially to every month to commit to. So I think it's been helpful for my clients, for me to say like, okay, maybe we don't need that, but let's do this instead.
Yeah.
Jordan will sit through like demos for us. And like if she's like our filter, which is so nice, because like companies will come at them and come at us and be like, hey, you need this and you need that and you need this. And Jordan will be like, okay, well, tell me what it's about. And then they'll start their opening and she's like, no, thanks. We don't need this. It's very overwhelming. I know that Jeremy was mentioning that he has just an unbelievable amount of reps emailing him all the time about stuff. And it's, and her payroll help, and like I said, just everything that she does. It's so hard to define what Jordan does, because in reality, she's the backbone of the organization.
Yeah.
Like she does so much more than I can even name. So
I like, see, the smirk is back. The little smirk.
Brittany's your ultimate hype girl. Like she
No, that's awesome. Look, you can cut up these clips, Jordan. Once you have the video, send it out, cut up the clips, be like, hey, look at all these testimonials I have from all my clients. And then, you can push that out to everyone, standard marketing stuff.
Yeah. You still doing what you do.
So I do have a question on like your I guess your evaluation process on how you, I guess, choose to work with vendors, software, and LPs and stuff like that. Like, I'm sure it's different for every kind of client and dispensary you work with, but what is your framework as to evaluating whether or not that a company is going to provide a positive ROI for the dispensaries that you're working with? Like, obviously it's ROI based, but let's just make it simple and let's just talk about LPs. LP comes out, they're like, hey, we have this fantastic blah, 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 blah. And then, what is the next step to evaluate to see if that's something you want to bring into the stores?
So for products in the store, you mean?
Sure. Yeah, let's start with that.
So I don't do the menu curation. So I think the relationships with reps are important to me. So I will, if they do tell me something cool, I'll send it off.
Okay.
In Britney's case, I send it off to Brandon, because he does a lot of the menu curation for that group. But I think with reps, the relationship goes deeper than just buying what they're selling.
Sure.
And I see some clients miss the mark there, because those relationships are really important. They're good support for retailers. So I really like to have positive relationships with these reps and get to know them. But for menu, and I think Britney can speak to this, like, I think that's one thing that will set stores apart. We do
100%.
some stores have, backdoor deals with LPs, where there's, an exchange of, I'm not sure what they're doing, because I don't work with any stores that are participating in that, but they're bound by certain SKUs in the store. They're bound by certain brands in their stores. Like, and then there's customers that come into a store like Brant and they're like, oh my God, you have so much stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, how many SKUs do you think you have in Brant right now? Like 500?
Yeah, maybe not that high, but I could guess, I would say like 350 SKUs around there, which maybe less. It's not, but then you go into stores like Value Buds or, these big block chains that may or may not be getting these backdoor deals from LPs, and like their menu has 18 products on it, so the curation is definitely very important. And Brandon is just so good with every aspect of that. Like, he was responsible for a lot of the buying in the legacy stores back in the day. Learned so much, doesn't consume really. He smokes CBD occasionally, but it's the menu is your operation,
Yeah.
If all of us are selling the same things, we all have access to the same menus, but somebody who owned, say, a convenience store in the past and came from the convenience store and decided to turn it into a weed shop, they're not going to go through the menu and like look at terpene levels and look at all this different stuff that's available on the OCS. So I think that's a large, probably 90% of the reason of Brant's success is just because of menu curation.
So I'm very, I know you said Brandon handles a lot of the menu stuff, but I'm super curious because like I'm obviously on the marketing side, so I'm super, super far away from this stuff. Like, on the product side, how often do you rotate products, or do you just wait till they sell? And then how do you figure out what new products you're going to bring in? Because I know on a fundamental level, it's like, okay, which one are your most popular products? Obviously put them there, but you want to try and hit those trends before the other stores get them so that you have the products that, consumers would like. So like, are you familiar? Like, how does that process? I'm just very curious about that.
So like, for example, a product that you're talking about, let's say Ghost Drops, right? Ghost Drops, I don't know if you know about them or not, but they have, they basically pick 2 strains and grow it, and then it's gone. So it's like limited drops. And people, this is becoming the trend with growers that I'm finding is the most successful. So they'll, sell 500 cases to the OCS, and you get an email from the rep saying, hey guys, just to let you know, we have a drop coming this week of like 27% or whatever, and it's limited time only. It's going to be gone. They even like give sticker cards with it so that you can collect the sticker cards. Like, right. So I remember back in the day, people would buy a Fido and then collect the packets, right?
Yes.
Like they'd have their collection of Fido wrappers just to say like, I smoked all this. So the reps will email, the bud tenders will get word, it will go on Reddit, and then everybody's waiting for it, right? So for example, the OCS limits how much you can buy. So they'll be like, okay, Brant Cannabis, I can designate 3 boxes of Ghost Drops to you. And you might get 1, you might get none, you might get 3. It has no sense the way that they distribute, but it just sells out, right? So it's like, for example, the best hash, we don't get enough to cover the week. Well, say the order comes on Tuesday, we're sold out by Saturday.
Yeah.
So then you have Sunday, Monday with nothing. And if there are products sitting around, put them on sale and get them out of there, because that's another area where Brandon's just an expert, and maybe a podcast with him would be really cool because it's all about menu curation. Maybe
that'd be awesome.
Maybe he doesn't want to give away his secrets. I don't know.
That too,
but,
who knows? The best secret.
But but like if he sees mainly a product sitting around that we've had in stock for 2 weeks, he'll 30% off, get it out the door. Like bring that money back in to put something else back on the menu that's going to bring people back, right?
Yeah. Wow. Just a lot of different levels to this. Like you said, it's not just someone who's, hey, I want to sell a bunch of, drugs and then, make a lot of money, right? There's a lot of slight nuances in what you need to do to have a successful business. So that really takes me into, I want to try and provide value to, I guess, those who are either just starting up their store or thinking about starting a store and stuff like that. So on the marketing sense, I have a framework on how I think marketing should be done on a foundational level. There's obviously more advanced tactics that you can use, but if you don't have these 3 things in place, then you're at a loss. So my marketing customer acquisition framework is, first one's awareness, right? You need people to know who you are, for them to purchase from you in the first place. The second one is conversion. You need to then convert the people who know who you are into paying customers, because even if they know who you are and don't purchase, then it doesn't matter. And then the third one is loyalty, right? You're a dispensary, you're set in a physical location, so you have to keep people coming back over and over and over again, for you to have a proper business, right? And then the loyalty section breaks down into 4 parts, which is good price, good product, good customer experience, and then good buying experience, right? So that's like my foundation for what I tell all my dispensary clients. So what would be the framework, and apologize if I'm putting you guys on the spot if you haven't thought about something like this before, to, I guess, start up like a store, right? Aside from all the permits and all the stuff that you need, what is literal phase 1 of starting up a store?
Have product knowledge.
Really? Product knowledge first.
Yeah.
And I think location is really important.
I was going to say location. But elaborate a bit. What are your thoughts? Why did products come top of your head at the start?
Because people like me will come in and take your customers when you give them the wrong thing. So if you want to compete within the industry, know what you're doing. Yeah. If you don't know anything about cannabis and you want to sell cannabis on a retail level, don't.
Yeah.
And like, if you're going to do it, I mean this in the nicest way possible, like go poach people who know what they're doing. Sure. If you're that dedicated to doing it, you need staff that know what they're doing so that they can teach you. Because even, again, I've mentioned people like me who I've been in this industry for 12 years, 13 years now, and I don't know what I'm doing sometimes.
Yeah. Yes. In what aspects? Let's touch on that. So when you're like, oh, I don't know what's going on, how does that typically fall under? Is it product knowledge? Is it customer relationships? Is it loyalty? Like, again, I don't know what it is, but when you say I don't know, what is the thing that you're like, oh, I'm not sure, and I need Jordan's help for?
So for me, it's not product knowledge. It's not customer service. I'm amazing with customers. I have the product knowledge. I know like more than most in the product knowledge, except for I could say Brandon probably knows more than me just because he's been curating menus for so long now. Since, he was a part of the dispensary in Burnaby too. So since 2012, like we've been working on this cannabis knowledge. I think that I'm sorry, I completely forgot the question.
No, it's okay. It was just more so like I really wanted to touch on like, you know, when you mentioned not knowing what you need to do, right?
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
You know, what are those
Compliance.
things? Okay, compliance.
Compliance.
That's a big one.
Compliance is a really big one. Again, Jeremy is the operator, so he does most of that kind of stuff. But even in just day-to-day operations, like if there's an incident in the store, it needs to be reported. I've never been one to follow rules ever. You can tell that by my criminal record. I've never been one to listen to higher authority that I don't agree with. And unfortunately, I'm bound by compliance when it comes to this industry now. There is a lot of push for change, and I have every intention of heading that. For example, children being allowed to be in retail stores. I think that it's absurd that I'm outside babysitting people's kids in thetheir car while they're inside shopping for cannabis.
Yeah.
And that happens regularly, unfortunately.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. There's many things that I need help with. And, you know, I've done things that aren't compliant sometimes accidentally. And I have to be like, oh, I will not do that again. You know,
Sure.
not as far as serving to minors or whatever, but if a sale goes through at 11:01 and I'm like 12 seconds short of closing down the till at 11 o'clock, you know, definitely compliance, definitely anything back end wise. Like I had a POS system at our old stores, but it wasn't this extensive. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I need help with, and I consider myself a retail expert. So I'm good now, but over the last, you know, Jordan and I have been working on this since 2020. I've needed a lot of help because it's all new to me. And if I had bar experience and have worked with the AGCO directly, I wouldn't have needed as much help, I don't think. But because the AGCO and regulation, I've been in the cannabis industry since I was 21 years old, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I was a waitress for 3 years, 18 to 21, and then I've lived an unregulated life basically since then up until 2020. So,
and here we are.
Yeah, and I had to fight really hard for my manager's license too. I had to have like 3 OPP interviews and to ensure that I'm not a gangster. And again, that's another podcast when we talk about everything that happens. But
well, it shows your dedication. I mean, look, whoever's listening to this, you know, the few people that are, at least for now, we're going to be famous soon. Don't worry. But you know, it just shows your dedication to kind of like actually wanting to be a part of the industry itself, right? Like if, you know, somebody's willing to jump through these hoops multiple times over and over and over again, I think that shows a long way in terms of like, you know, you as a person and kind of like the impact you want to make. So again, for what it's worth, that's what I'm saying.
And people, like I'm just Britney to me, you know what I mean? Like I just have tripped and stumbled my way through the industry and it's worked out kind of, you know, like I thought that Burnaby was a huge mistake. It wasn't. It was just a lesson that we had to learn. And I've just like stumbled through, and I have people tell me like, Britney, I don't know, like, how did this happen? Like how, you know, like I have people tell me like, it's an incredible thing, but I just want to keep pushing and keep making change and improve the industry to the point that we don't have any complaints.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like even though you may think you stumbled, you stumbled forward, and you know you're doing some really, really awesome work right now. So, you know,
thank you.
Congrats on that.
Thanks.
So Jordan, you said location. You said location was the first one that popped in your head. You know, why did you think location was? You know, I feel like it's quite obvious, but would love to hear your perspective on, you know, the location aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I think for myself, some of the research I like to do is map out where everyone's stores are in the province and try and find where the gaps are that, you know, might be suitable for a location. I also try and look for locations that are near an LCBO or beer store, because I think those two companies put a lot of money into researching demographics. So I think those are always kind of goodish locations, depending, you know, how many stores might be nearby. Parking is really important. We touched on that earlier. Yeah. So I see the frustration of owners who open a store and then 6 months down the road, something opens up across the street. You know, it's tough for people. And I wish they had put a little bit of like restrictions on proximity early on in the industry, but that's not the case. So we got to work with what we got. And I do think location is really important.
Yeah. I mean, like you see Toronto, right? There's just like so many places opening up and almost at the same rate, so many places closing, right? Even the notable ones, it's like, wow, you know, all these places are closing. It's like, somebody asked me this question. They're like, hey, what do you think is going to go on in the market? I'm like, look, everyone's going to think it's a gold rush. You know, everyone's going to build dispensaries or whatever it is. And then not everyone can compete for whatever reason. And then everyone's going to go down. Then it's going to have some sort of leveling off period. So you're right. You know, if they thought about that proximity thing a little bit better. I know in Toronto, I forgot the names. There's 2 dispensaries right beside each other. You know, I had a buddy of mine that just like lived, you know, right by it. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing. Why are there 2? And then, you know, 3 months later, one of them shut down. I was like, well, you know, that's obvious, right? Like, what do you expect? So that's kind of the market right now. So I guess on that level, what would you guys say would make, you know, aside from product selection and curation, a dispensary stand out from the rest? Like what would be, you know, if it's one thing, if it's a couple things, what are you seeing in the marketplace right now that you're like, damn, those guys are doing it really, really good? Or, you know, these guys are not doing so well?
I think one area where I see a difference is when the owners are also the operators. I think when the owners are more involved in day-to-day operations, I see better results.
Mm-hmm. You think that's just because of they care about the business maybe a little bit more?
Perhaps. Maybe there's more control within.
Maybe. I'm not too sure myself.
But when I see owners more involved, I see better results.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have more to lose than a manager.
Well, you're right.
Yeah. And with like, you know, the stores that I'm at, my brother-in-law, we all work 3 to 4 days a week, and there's 3 of us, right?
Yes.
So we're covering like all of that day shift. I'm also finding stores that curate to their customers more in the sense of, you know, from 9 o'clock from open until 2 or 3 in the afternoon, 90% of our customers are an older generation. They're, you know, in their 50s and 60s and stuff. So like, I don't have like gangster rap on from 9 till 2 o'clock, you know, like we have like K-Light FM or the classic rock channel or whatever. And we really try to cater to our audience in the way that, like, you know, Suzanne might not like Drake at 10 a.m., you know, so, and that's a good example. There's been worse, like, you know, back in the black market days, like they would be operating like a trap house, you know, they just have like
blacked out windows, you know.
But no, just like loud music. Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, like after 7 p.m., I don't care. You can listen to what you want to, as long as it's censored. Like I don't want any racial slurs or anything in music going on in the stores. But I really do find if you're catering to the environment, it makes a big difference. Like if your, you know, store has a crazy theme in some way that doesn't make somebody like a grandma comfortable to come and buy her CBD, she's going to go somewhere else, you know?
Yeah. No, you're completely right. Like I did a webinar earlier, and it was breaking down how different buyer demographics buy, like if it's a baby boomer, Gen X, Gen Z, you know, that sort of thing. And, you know, there's different kind of studies on how those specific types of people purchase. And again, males and females, they also purchase differently, the different types of products that they purchase, right? So it's about, you're exactly right, like curating the specific value to whoever wants to buy the thing, right? And I think that falls under the loyalty aspect, right? That buyer experience, right? You know, when somebody comes into your store, it's not just about receiving the product, it's about them having a truly good experience. And not in the sense, hey, the store is really, really nice, come in and get your product and leave. It's like, are they comfortable in this space, right? You know, do the bud tenders know your name? That sort of thing. And I think that really, really goes a long way in terms of how do dispensaries, again, set themselves away from each other. So I'm happy to hear that you mentioned that there are different demographics, not just a bunch of young people looking to purchase some weed.
Right.
So I think, I think we covered a lot. I don't really have too much else in terms of talking about, kind of your guys' experience in the space. I think we, covered that quite extensively. But some of the things, I guess, to touch back on the Flower Power Consulting stuff, what I always like to do is just kind of ask, like, what else is down the pipeline for you guys? And I guess for both of you, right? Opening up more stores. Are you planning on becoming a massive agency, hiring a bunch of people? Like, what does the next 5 years to 10 years look like for both of you? Because we know what the prior, 10-ish years look like. So, moving forward, what are you trying to achieve?
Yeah, Flower Power has some plans that I'm not
it's a secret.
at the liberty of revealing at this moment.
I apologize. Didn't mean to step on any toes.
No, you're not at all. Yeah, I'm definitely in development stage behind the scenes for a few projects. So
nice.
We'll have a
podcast episode 2 or follow up.
Yeah.
And Brittany, what about you?
So hard to say. It's the one thing I will say about the cannabis industry is it's completely unpredictable. It's a little bit more predictable now in the legal days. I'm finding, like, I don't have as much PTSD about what tomorrow's going to bring, kind of thing.
Yes. The security and stability.
I don't have like cops kicking in my doors and stuff. So I'm hoping to still be here. Like we're expanding still. I don't know when enough is, because I'm tired already from just being all over the place all the time. But all I hope is that, my future and the store's futures and my family's futures are all taken care of. I would love for my nieces and nephews to be able to run the store one day, and my daughter to be able to run the store one day.
Family run business.
Right. It's what we fought for, So like I wanted to create an industry for my daughter for life. So if I'm still here, and I know I'm going to be doing lots of other cool stuff that I also can't disclose, but it's definitely going to be in a podcast a couple years down the road, I think. So
when you have that set up and, have your book launch and you're speaking on stage again, just remember this and just be like, hey, let's hop on a podcast and we can share the clout together.
I would love to. I love to talk and engage and share. So anytime.
This is awesome.
And speaking of speaking on stage, Brittany will be speaking at HempFest.
Oh yeah. Yay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's tell us about that. When is it? Where are you going to be? What are you talking about?
I believe the dates are May 9 to 11. Don't quote me. I'm still like working out the details and stuff to speak, but May 9 to 11, I'm going to be doing from legacy to legal kind of conversations, where I see the market at, where I see where it's going, what I would like to change, like how I'm going to still remain in my activism roots and fight for kids to be allowed in stores, and limits to be lifted, because why can I buy 15 cases of vodka but only an ounce of marijuana?
Right.
There's lots of room for improvement. So it's basically about like what I did, what I'm doing, and what I'm going to do.
Awesome. And second to last question, any additional nuggets of wisdom for any dispensary owners out there? Just anything of value that you can provide to them?
Yeah, if you need help, you can call me.
Keep going.
It's flowerpowerconsulting.ca.
Nice. Well, that was the next question. Where can people find you? flowerpowerconsulting.ca. And Brittany, what about you?
I wish you the best of luck. And if you need help, call me. You can find me at Brant Cannabis, but I am available through Flower Power Consulting to help you unload product. If you need help with the curating, Brandon does orders for people if they need it. So product knowledge, people, product knowledge. Please, 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 please. Leafly is your friend. Mm-hmm. Study. If you don't know, you need to know. And I wish you luck.
Awesome. Well, look, this was really, really awesome. Appreciated this chat. Thanks for being so transparent as well. I mean, I know a lot of people wouldn't be like that. So, thanks for sharing both of your stories. And, I think that's about it for us.
Thanks, friends. It's been fun.
All right. Thanks, guys.